This is reposted.
Larry, we had a saying in football, and it was only the strong survive. Our offensive line had shirts made that said OTSS on it.
I love when we go back to Friday Night Lights with you. I love picturing young Andrew playing the.
I don't want your life. Well, today's idea is not exactly that. It comes from former Intel CEO Andrew Grove. He says, only the paranoid survive. I think that could be viewed in a lot of different ways. But to be successful, I think I could apply this. What do you think? Are you paranoid?
Oh, I love that you brought AG to our podcast today, because we're talking about the strategic inflection point, Andrew.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about what he did with Intel, and I love what he did in his book. Basically, this idea we have today, being paranoid, is his book. And what he did was he basically went back and looked at his time working at Intel and reverse engineered all of his failures there. Basically, he went and said, like, this is what I did wrong.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a valuable exercise. Every once in a while, I'll go back and I'll think about my life and like think about the bad decisions I've made.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back at them, I'm like, dude, was I paranoid? Was I crazy? Why did I do that? And when you break it down, on the surface, it seems paranoid, but when you break it down, there's obviously context and ideas, and you can sort of sort through. And it's this idea of, do you want to keep doing your failures over and over again? Like, that's what I think paranoid is, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think I like that you talked about reverse engineering. We talked to Tim Thompson last Friday, and he said about how his approach to just finding new opportunities is like, what's the answer you're looking to solve, and reverse engineer back into it. So I feel like that idea keeps coming up, and this also makes me think of Steve Jobs, like the stories of right before anything would launch. He's like, this needs to be perfect, and he's paranoid. And to me, the paranoid is making sure that you can't fail. And I guess if other people are involved, like set up checkpoints, being like, hey, check in before we hit our deadline, and just looking at everything from a 360-degree angle, saying, what are my potential failure, or what are my potential exposures? And I think that's what paranoid is, to survive and thrive in life and in business.
And also too, like leaders, I mean, I'm not necessarily a boss or a manager, but I think sometimes in my family, I sort of set the tone of where we're going to go. And they always think I'm crazy. They're like, Dad, why in the world are we not eating a meal and giving the money away to this charity? And they think I'm crazy. And it's because I'm trying to teach them this point that there are people around the world that don't eat. But they think I'm crazy, and they really think I'm paranoid in the moment. But hopefully my young kids that's 7 or whatever, eventually we go like, remember those days when Dad would like make us not eat and give the money away?
I got a couple things on that. Number one, 7 or whatever, this leader of the family is not 100% sure how old his kids are.
First of all, not leader of the family, co-leader of the family, co-leader.
50% of the time.
50% of the time.
Referred to AG as if everyone knew who he was. Just in case you don't know, Andrew Grove was Hungarian born and escaped communist-controlled Hungary at the age of 20 to come to the U.S. to finish his schooling. He was employee number 3 of Intel, which is crazy. He's led such, I mean, you just think Intel is such a pillar in Silicon Valley, and he's one of the main reasons they got to where it is, and being paranoid helped them.
What language do they speak in Hungary?
Hungarian.
Okay, just checking. I've never heard anybody speak Hungarian. I didn't know.
Hungarian is a very interesting language to hear spoken. If you have time, look on YouTube, and the way the language is structured is very interesting, and it's like not like any other language you've ever heard.
I do like that AG in this idea of paranoid, he talks to the Pentium flaw. There was a critical moment in Intel's, when they're making these chips, right, that there was this Pentium flaw, and he sort of breaks down like what went wrong and how he fixed it. And it's deep. I had to ice my brain after I kind of went down the AG track here. But I really like the idea of what he did in this book, was just go back and look at his failures. And I think that's something we can all learn from.
Yeah. As we're talking about this, I'm thinking about people that I look up to or inspired by. And I think paranoid could be applied to them. I think paranoid has a negative connotation, but you could rebrand it as meticulous, and it sounds a lot better. Only the meticulous survive. I think that's the same thing, but just people who have their stuff together, who are gonna be driven and, like you say, learn from your mistakes.
I also think of paranoid as like someone smoking LSD.
Yeah. Have you smoked? I don't think you smoke LSD. I think
yeah.
it's like you put it on your tongue and it dissolves.
Oh, you do? You don't shoot it in your arm? That's not what you do?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe you get a credit card and you go at Studio 54.
Hey, bro, I'm like a 5'10" white guy from the suburbs. I don't know what the LSD. I don't know how they do that.
Well, maybe you should be a little bit more paranoid. Someone over your shoulder. I think we fully exhausted this topic. Larry's not paranoid. He's just happy. If you have a post you'd like us to further explore, please reach out. You can find us at Reposted Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm Andrew Keller for AG saying thanks for stopping by.